it's Shames, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 10th of January to the 17th of January. Yeah, first to the video that I thought was not good. And, you know, I kind of, there's some channels, right, where I want to give them the benefit, like a pause, you know, I don't want to, like, I don't know. I've turned around on, and like, you know, I don't want to be as harsh about or anything like that, even though some of them appreciate that and everything. Now I'm just psychoanalyzing the use of not good things, but I'm doing one now. Something Witty Entertainment put out their 16th episode of SAO abridged parody. They've been doing it for a long time, and consistently really successful on their channel, garnering a lot and already getting a shit ton of views. I don't like it. But look, I haven't like watched it since episode 1. I'm not like caught up on it with like, oh, it got worse or something like that. I'm kind of just coming in it from someone who really enjoyed abridged parody content, which is pretty much dead on YouTube if you're on, if you know, at least compared to where it was years ago. Like when it was around where it was starting, and it makes sense because it's the copyright stuff, and it's and a lot of them just kind of fall off and things like that. But man, at least I'm happy. At least I guess I could be happy in one regard that they're still carrying this mantle a little bit. And from some people might argue like really evolving it and trying to make a good narrative and like improving the source material, which, you know, is they kind of made their thing known for with this one. They're trying to actually make it somewhat more interesting and cohesive and stuff. But I think it's really difficult to make something like that when the episodes come out so sporadically, and at the end of the day, you're still using the material. Except there's a moment in here in this episode that was shocking to me. And I just think it's like, it's this thing, right? Like, it reminds me of like, I'm very into YouTube poops. I can't make them. I wish I could be as funny as that, but like I'm an absolute sucker for them. I love them so much. And there was this like thing that I kind of saw a little bit on like the timeline and stuff. I follow a couple of them, and there was this like drama initially of like creating such original content out of existing, you know, because YouTube poop, you're trying to take the source and like mess with it, right? But like AI technology to try to like with sentence mixing, people were kind of like a little purist about that, but they were saying nowadays it's sort of like, you know, it's still cool that they're making poops at all, and it's sort of if you have the skills and you have the tools available to you, why not use them, right? Like, you know, why restrict yourself in that way? And I like that mentality. And I know with like The Things, for example, he's done a couple, like they've done a couple of drawings, and like has their own like polygonal kind of art style. And then there was a recent VTuber poop that they did where they were like a good chunk of it was actually kind of like animated almost, and that was kind of really interesting and like new, and it was original, sure. That is to say, there is a very short, quick moment, kind of a throwaway little gag, I guess, in this abridged parody where I'm pretty sure that they drew something, like they animated something original here, which is like, you know, like in terms of like abridged things, that just seems like mind-blowing to me. And it's like, why are we doing that? Why are you here? You know what I mean? I know I'm saying that stuff to caveat that like it might me coming off as am I being hypocritical here? That am I being like purist with abridged parodies, but like it's free, like what's the difference sort of thing? I just sort of was like, the point of the abridged is to take the existing material and twist it, or kind of make something playful out of it, and kind of make it entertaining in its own transformative way. You're not creating new material, you know? You're not just like creating the scene where this guy is holding this creature in his arms and it dies in front of him, whatever. It's kind of like a sad but in a jokey way sort of thing, like a quick thing. And I'm pretty sure, and it's not like like lush or animated or anything, but it's very clearly original. Like I might be misinformationing you and like talk, I don't know, I have to double check, or maybe, but I remember like rewind, like pausing, and I'm looking closer at it. I'm like, that's original. That's something somebody animated and like separate from SAO. And I just kind of, I don't know. I just kind of freaked out about it personally. I don't like it. But you know, more so with the length of the whole thing. It's 32 minutes of just pointless, unfunny, annoying, miserable content. And I'm, you know, maybe I'm going too harsh on it. I probably am. But like, I just couldn't. I don't remember a single moment that was like funny. Like, what is the point of this really? And I've probably said this about their other content before. I'm not at this point. They are kind of a constant source of not goods, I guess. But again, I don't want to like make this series so much about constantly bashing a particular creator. But something Witty doesn't really upload that often, so I'm like, you know what? And I also don't do that many not goods, and I know some people enjoy them kind of going into them. I don't know, but I just was so checked out the whole time that like I literally, there was points where I was going so slowly. I'm like, are they even abridging the episode at this point? And it's true that they actually do. They actually are abridging 2 episodes of Sword Art Online in this 132-minute package. So I guess it's technically an abridge, sure, but it's like 1.5, I guess. Like 1.5, 1.1 times 5 speed or whatever. But they're not showing every plot beat, of course. They're really just kind of cutting a lot of stuff. I remember, and I actually, because I looked on Verve for the episodes just to get a nice sense of like how much did they actually condense. You know, like there's no much abridging here, you know, and I've talked about that before with their content. Just like it's too long. It's like if it needs to be that long, because if it's like a climactic event, the longest episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged, then I double checked this as well just now, was the finale of like season 4 of like Seal of Orichalcos, whatever. Like the episode was 29 minutes. I don't know how many episodes they're actually abridging in that section right there, but like, and it did seem a little more plotty and things like that, but that's because it's like a finale, you know what I mean? And Lil Karibo's been working on this series for over 8, maybe longer than 8 years, you know, like a long time, probably longer at this point. So like he's able to like let him have that one basically, you know, but this was just really, it was just covering these 2 episodes of Sword Art Online that just are really boring, and see things that they were just taking way too seriously. It just kind of felt like you were trying to usurp and own the scenes, and you're not really poking fun at them in not that much. Like there's, I don't know, there's things that are taking it way too seriously. And not to mention, like I've mentioned it before in their previous videos I've talked about from them, the humor is very voice actor heavy and dialogue heavy, and it's because it's really interesting that like there was parts, especially in the first third, it was just reminding me, it was like, it really is just dialogue. There's no visual humor going on. It really is just like the mouthpieces, and then they're just moving, then they're just writing, and it's a bunch of OC fandom convention humor, and it's like if like performing as the characters on like a cosplay stage, and they're like acting and things, and it's a little cringe. not to completely discredit like the people that do that. I think it's fun, and it's their own enjoyment of fandom, and this is the same, its own enjoyment of fandom. It's just not something I enjoy that much. But the thing is, I do enjoy abridged humor, but it's just not funny. it's just really miserable and everything. And again, I don't want to saturate Digest with that sort of like spewing misery onto you guys type of thing. Is where I was coming from with where I'm kind of like reconsidering of doing this sort of thing. But like I did sit through the whole thing just because I was like, you know, I do want to, you know, it is important. It is like the mentality of don't put with, you know, just enjoy this stuff or just drop it if you're not enjoying it and type of thing. I do ultimately subscribe to that, but I do think there is also value in looking into these things, and I've preached that before, so it's always a constant back and forth with me, I guess. But no, I thought it was really unfunny and long and boring, and also like the fact that the end of it, there was multiple times where they were like, that was a waste of time, or like that was so pointless, and they were just like making fun at the futility of everything that we just experienced. But like the audio, it wasn't fun for me either. I'm like, why is that funny? No, I don't think that's very funny. And it's like, you're just trying to being self-aware of it, or like at least make some fucking jokes that are funny. I don't know, but are also not caked in like the voice actor's performance of the character, you know. I mean, some of that is funny, and like it's the same thing with Little Karibo, where, you know, a lot of the joke is the way he's performing the character, perhaps, but it's also in the writing and in the, I don't know, and just every single time I've watched something witty thing, I'm just like, am I just not into this humor anymore? And I go to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged episode like shortly afterwards, and I enjoy it, you know. Like, I do think the latest that I ended up watching, because like part of me was like, is it because I like it when it's short? Maybe if I watch a longer Little Karibo episode, it won't be as funny or engaging. And no, it was. Like, no, and the one that I watched, it was a little more self-indulgent and almost taking itself a little seriously in the same way. But again, it's the climactic final battle in this particular season and stuff, and so like he's able to kind of have that little victory lap. I was able to understand that, even though it wasn't the most enjoyable for me personally. I don't know, man. It's not my thing, and it sounds like, well, you're checking it out. You know, I think it's just something to talk about, and there's certain events and things that I don't check out, and then they end up being kind of like, you know, fairly big deals, all things considered. So I'd like to try to cover them when I can. And yeah, it's not very often that they release an episode of this abridged parody. They don't put them out very often these days. So, you know, something to talk about. But yeah, this can't get into it, man. Oh well. And then you know, I wanted to give this a little bit of a not good, but it's kind of more of a decent with an asterisk. I'm gonna bring that back as well. I'm just kind of in the middle of it. I still want to talk about it though. So BennettTheSage has had a kind of a good a surge recently. He got a new flux of subscribers after he put out his live action Cowboy Bebop video, and the second one in particular got pretty big. I didn't cover it because I'm not covering. I didn't want to. That's the, you know, belly aching about the live action Cowboy Bebop was not something I was wanting to spend my time on, even though it's 44 minutes and it sounds like it's more of a like Disney and like metatextual thing with Netflix and Disney and stuff like that, and it might be all contained in the first part of the Netflix Bebop, like his video on Netflix Bebop might be contained there. But his part 2 ended up kind of getting a lot of more traction, and he ended up getting some more subscribers. He's almost at 100K, which is really exciting. It's just great for him because he's been doing this for 10 years, you know. And it's great to finally have that recognition, you know what I mean? But it's really interesting. This thumbnail, you know, but he was explaining it. He did a little bit of a mini Twitter thread about it where he's like, look, that's just the game, you know. And like I ended up kind of getting over myself and the ego of putting your face out there like that, and try to do that because it's what YouTube rewards, and he does want the 100K, so he's like, I do gotta work for this, you know what I mean? And he also put in the middle of the video, he's like, hey, can you take the time to like the video and subscribe if you like what you're seeing, because it means a lot to me. And this other thing, and he had never really done that sort of thing in his videos before that I remember, which is just really interesting. And you know, and it is something, a point of reflection for me, because I've hardly ever done that. I probably did that a little bit in my early videos, but I usually don't. I thank the viewer, but like, and I also kind of I've plugged the Patreon and, you know, subscribe for more type of thing. Like, I've done that, but it's not the like and subscribe type of call to action the same, you know. And that's yeah, I agree. It's kind of more of an ego thing on my end, you know. It's like, oh, people wouldn't want to see my face on the thumbnail, or like, who the fuck am I kind of thing, or like you know, like be like a YouTuber type of thing and just kind of be all edgy and stuff. But yeah, I get it. It's but I don't know. It's just kind of interesting to see him be more proactive with that audience. He's like, hey, to the new subscribers, and this is what we do, and he's covering this very obscure 45-minute whatever fantasy OVA, and it's mostly riffing on like the ADV dub, and I don't know. It's not as again, it's not the content that I would want to come to him from him these days. I do think he is better at the, thoughtful, positively skewed, interesting type of stuff. But whatever. And fucking the end of the video, he's saying how the next video is going to be, obviously the way he's toned and talked about it, he's going to talk about Harmageddon, which is weird. I could have sworn he would have talked about Genma Tyson by now, then Torn Apart, but guess he hasn't yet, and that's coming soon. Great. I'm not into that sort of thing. Like, you can dislike the movie, like it's fine. Like I thought it was good. I didn't love it or anything, but I get people have like problems with it or whatever. But like, just not like, I don't know. Generally, I don't like this kind of content that just is ends up being kind of the group consensus of this title, and it might actually be very misconstruing or not actually representative of the show itself, or not giving it a good angle or anything. I don't know. I get his approach to these things, and also you can clearly tell he enjoys doing it. So that's kind of the what's most important at the end of the day. If you like doing it, and there's an audience that comes for it that also like what you do, why change it? Why stop? Just because there's a couple people like me that bellyache about it every so often, and doesn't, is what it is. But no, I just want to talk about his state of his channel a little bit, and this video as well. Because I could tell that he was enjoying what he was making and getting excited about making videos again. Not that he wasn't excited beforehand. He was pretty dedicated to his audience and stuff, but I think he really was able to capitalize. Like, he made this Netflix thing, and it actually worked and got like over 100,000 views. So it's something he wants to like really take the ball and run with, type of thing, which is just really cool and exciting that like someone who's making stuff for this long isn't totally ground down and complacent with where he is these days. He's like seeking it and hoping he gets 100K soon. I mean, if you guys aren't subscribed to him, maybe like that could help boost him. As much as I riff on him and everything like that, and like whatever, I watched him for a long time and enjoyed a lot of his content up to that point before I ended up watching a lot of this older stuff myself and having a different takeaway from him, at like a different perspective. But he's an OG, and I do think he should be rewarded with hard work of getting 100,000 subscribers. That's just my perspective. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about his stuff. Okay, now for some videos I thought were decent. They were pretty good. I enjoyed them. And this is from Anormie. The 1980s was the best anime decade, and here's why. It's only 6 minutes, so it's kind of a chill, like, little fun thing. And I can understand people being a little upset or like, hey man, Sailor Moon's not the 80s. Why is it on the thumbnail? Right. And he says towards the end, there's a point where he mentions that like, oh, you might not appreciate Sailor Moon nowadays, but back in 1989, I'm like, the manga was 91 and the series was 92. That's very like, there's no pilot from 89 or something. Like, where are you getting this from the 80s? And it certainly looks 80s, of course, because Junichi Sato knows how to do them, I guess. But like, besides the slight like the little places here and there, I thought it was really in good faith and slightly funny. It's not like super fun, like not trying to make you super obnoxious laugh type of thing, but like it's quirky, playful editing and things like that. Little, I think there's things that could be like grumble, but I think his delivery and his overall like positive message of just like why we like this stuff so much type of thing, I think is in good faith, and I thought that was infectious enough to kind of carry the whole video. I'm sorry I can't say too much other detail about it, because like point out specific things, because it was one of the first videos I watched, and I watched a ton of them that were like super long and stuff like that, and it's 240, and I probably watched this at like 11 or 10 or something. I don't know. Maybe if I usually don't do this, but if I like kind of look through the video like on mute and stuff as it goes. Yeah, I liked his initial hook about nostalgia and weaving that into vaporwave and then weaning that into city pop. And I thought that initial approach is really nice. But you can tell that he hasn't really seen a whole lot of this older stuff. He just kind of like he's using like Megalobox and the new early. I liked the stuff where they were like, oh, modern anime is starting to recognize this. We have the new Urusei coming out. We have Megalobox, you know, stuff like that. And Ghibli is making more movies, and I was like, well, Ghibli's just never stopped. For the record, Ghibli's just never stopped from '86, and they've consistently been making movies through the '90s, through the 2000s, through the 2010s, and so on. So that was a little weak, you know. And I get like Megalobox. It's like, oh, but it's, you know, it's this. You know, that's fair. But the you know, I would have liked when the point where he was like, history time, it's 1979, now it's 1980, we're going to start going ham on production and things like that. And then yes, so he's talking about like the economic boom there was, so that is good, and things like that. But there was this one moment where it's like, oh, TV, like anime back then, it was just this sort of thing. And he uses like Lupin the Third, the like part 1, as an example of like old anime, what it used to be like. But I'm like, actually, Lupin the Third is a pretty edgy, boundary pushing kind of title from back then, because back then there wasn't really any like TV cartoons for adults. Where it's guns and killing and like action and things like that, and cool guns and cars, and it's a little more like grown up type of thing. It wasn't just like kind of just for kids or something like that. And so it is kind of a weird example to bring up, but that's just good. All this stuff is sort of like minor nitpick stuff that you wouldn't pick up if you haven't watched this stuff or looked super, super deep into it like some of us have. But like the editing was super like, you know, fun and like moving a lot. Oh yeah, so he's another point where he's like 70s like older anime used to look like this, and he's showing Lupin the Third part 1, and then he contrasts it to Kiki's Delivery Service, which I'm like, well, first of all, I think Kiki's is 89, isn't it? 89. It's not like it's still 80s, like, sure, but hold on, yeah, 89. Like that's still like very cut it like through the whole decade. Like you're comparing from 1971 to 1989, like, of course. But not only that, you're comparing a TV series to a movie. And those are two very different, like there are 70s movies and even older that move just as well as like in terms of the examples he's using. It's like, well, you could pull some movies from the 70s and 60s that look this incredible, but that's because they're movies. You know what I mean? Like you would, but even still, if you pulled something from like a TV show from the 80s, like Urusei, for example, like he's pulling some examples from Urusei from like the OP, but like if you'd seen the show, that you could probably pull from an episode of like 151, which comes out in like 86 or something, like 85, 86, or yeah, at 151 would be like around that time, yeah. That has insane animation, and it's TV, right? Like you don't even have to pull from Beautiful Dreamer or something, which is, you know, it's kind of a different thing. It's like it's a movie sort of thing. But even if you pull from the TV series, it's demonstrably more crazy animated and stuff like that. And that's not to mention, of course, OVAs. I don't think he mentions OVAs a single time, or maybe he did, and I'm sorry. But he's just kind of more talking generally about like general titles and stuff. Like he's showing Akira and things like that. But I don't think he really mentions the word OVA, of like the fact that there's so much of an economy going on that they can just make animation without any commercial backing and just release it on physical and stuff. But I like the overall message of like, oh, we wouldn't be here where we are now with like Attack on Titan and stuff like that if it wasn't for this stuff before, like Fist of the North Star and kind of this other stuff and whatever. Like I thought that was a nice sentiment and things. You know, so I like the video. It's like, yeah, you're not like, it's not like super like, wow, this is new information I've never heard of before or something, but you know, it's still really nice and it's a good sentiment. So I'm endorsing and it's good. Nice job. ZettaiJapan with another video. Well, yeah. But like this first kind of like essay type of video since he's moved to Japan, which is really awesome. And this is about one of the Japanese mascots, like, you know, those Mondo mascots that there's each one that represents a different city in Japan and stuff like that. So he's analyzing specifically Takinomichi Yuzuru, which is the one that's in his city. And he gives the whole background, who or what it is, and describing the phenomenon and things like that with really engrossing kind of reporter type persona. I don't remember his delivery being this really serious and direct, but it's kind of like it's engaging in that way. But also the fact that it's a lot of him on camera now. It's him just kind of talking on camera with the little plush of Yuzuru and stuff, and also bringing in his personal perspectives. Like, I went to this place and tried to find the mascot and I couldn't find him, and then this story happened, and things like that. Like little metatextual stuff too is also really nice. I just think it's a sort of an evolution of from his video on moving to Japan with a lot of his personal experience and things, and converting that into a lore topic, or a topic that he would normally cover on his channel, but it's not so outsider or anything. Now he's really trying to experiencing it and everything. He also brings in a guy who runs this Twitter account that seeks out different mascots and kind of interviews him a little bit and learns a bit more from him. So it has a lot of variety to it. It's really well presented and stuff. It's just really interesting. I really enjoyed it. It's great. Anime OVAs you missed. Video Girl I from Animebackwhen. You know, I'm sorry if anything I say here has been repeated earlier from your content, but you know, I especially really liked the blend of scripted, like with the anime playing and you talking over it, as well as cutting back to your room and you just kind of sitting kind of cross-legged and like with your collection in the back and talking more casually about it. It's like, oh, I enjoyed it in this thing. It kind of felt like this at one point, but then it got really good in this other thing. You know, it felt really like conversational in that way and pleasant. You know what I mean? It just was a really comfy time. I also just like the perspective on Video Girl I here, where it's a lot more like, this is cool, you know, and less like the deeper meaning, like, oh my god, it's such a huge important piece, which I think a lot of people, when they find video, like BennettTheSage really coined that when his video covers it. It's a lot more, it's really good, you guys, like it's actually really good. I just like the more laid back of like, you know, this is cool, you should check it out. I also like the kind of playful intro is like, what if you just came at home, put in your PS4 and the girl came out, and then cutting to the like an AMV type intro with Video Girl I was also really nice, and I just thought it was a really good way to kick it off and stuff. And you know, the whole video was just really comfy and nice. I just really enjoyed it, and I like the perspective for this series that normally doesn't get this kind of treatment. It's a lot, I think it gives a lot, put on a lot more of a pedestal, but this is more like a, yeah, this is cool, yeah, you might have missed this type of thing. No, I just really enjoyed it, and yeah, I like this sort of content for you for sure. Kaze Talks made an Arcane video, but you know, I'm not so much into the Arcane as I was the idea of why it's time to take animation seriously. And I had a vibe that Kaze's going to bring his really trademark energy and passion and like really saturated like kind of feeling and just passion, really, I think. And yeah, it showed really well here. You know, I think the analysis of Arcane and why he liked it so much is really nice. And I love the intro of like, in 1895 they made the movie, like the moving pictures, and like the way he does his narration is so intense and dramatic, and like the thing is was like how it's done. Like punctuation of that and the staccato almost. It's so endearing and infectious and fun. Like again, like the Arcane stuff, I'm like, yeah, it's great you enjoyed that. I'm not as like, but I imagine that's the opinion a lot of people and that's where Arcane's at, where like I'm not a League of Legends fan, but actually the show's really good. I did watch an episode ish or so with my roommates, and they were playing it or whatever, and yeah, it is pretty interesting and pretty nice. I wasn't invested the whole thing, but like it very clearly know what they're doing. I think it seems like the creators are really smart and not too try-hardy and everything, and earnest, and I think they just know what they're doing, and it's really cool to see. And you know, looking forward to what happens with that in the future. But really, I just love Kaze's emphasis on Arcane and just how much he loves this stuff. And he's like, animation, decided to make my channel about animation because it's and I cannot do him justice. I cannot do it his delivery justice at all. Although I will say that there was one thing that's so, I just thought it was funny, like as a video editor thing, as like someone who makes videos and stuff, like the process of making that, it's just kind of fun to think about. But it did work in the context of this video. There's multiple moments of shots of Kaze of him in live action, and he has this really saturated blue and red light on, and it's just him like thinking, and there's no, it's not him on like talking on screen, it's just him going like this or like just like thinking, and it would keep cutting to that and then cut away back from it, and I'm like, it's just him thinking. I'm not making fun of him for it at all. I just like the idea of like setting up those lights and then filming it and then just doing that, or just kind of thinking earn it, but like not playing full, not like I'm kind of hamming it up a little bit, but he is just like, it is just him thinking and just like, yeah, whatever. And I just don't see that in videos, you know what I mean? You don't see that sort of earnest, like, here I am, and like it was almost playful in that, not like wink wink to the camera or something. It's just sort of like, it's just super earnest. And I think I've talked about it in his Tsubasa video as well. But man, it's just like so playful and energizing and fun and whatever. It's cool. Again, like I didn't feel like super engaged with like, oh, it's an Arcane video, yeah, but it's sort of like you're there for Kaze and for him talking about it, and just like, it's time to take animation serious. You know, it's just cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was fun. Okay, and now what I thought were the best videos of the week, the ones where I was like, wow, that's something. That's something really good. And this first one's from Anime Analysaur. First time I've talked about her channel. She's more like a banana fish channel. And she talks about banana, you know, it still connects to banana fish in this video, but I found it because I follow Sunwoo on Twitter, and he retweeted it and quote tweeted it. It's like, oh, thank you so much. And I just saw like reviewing other anime YouTubers type of video, and I'm like, I'm into that. So of course I checked it out, and it's just so wholesome and nice. It's just so glowing and kind of like attributing a lot to Sunwoo's content and like enjoying it in that way. I just think it's really quirky. I really like the use of the reaction shots. It just was very wholesome and like playful. It's just really wholesome and nice, and he's like, this is the ones I really like, and I really like his content. Oh, he didn't finish Run with the Wind, 4.595 out of 5. Oh, it's just like super glowing and warm and nice, and it's just like it's good positive vibes, you know. And that sort of thing is just something I wish, that's kind of part of the reason I wanted to do Digest, and also why I try to skew it more towards the positive stuff. I'm not talking shit about other creators, because I just think this positive stuff is awesome, and I like that a lot. And I'm just happy to see this as like a consistent thing. I don't know how like common her how not common, how like how often she's going to be making stuff like this, but I'm certainly tuned in. But she also makes other analysis content. She seems to be doing more stuff with this webcomic, it seems. It's a I Love You type of thing. I don't know if it's like a webcomic looking thing. And a lot of Banana Fish content, which you know, not as much because it's not airing anymore, but still. I just really liked the content, and I just was really happy with it. Besides the, you know, obviously the creator positivity with it, I just thought the approach was really nice and wholesome, and I loved it. So I had a really great time. It was nice. A new creator that a patron of mine like linked to the video and stuff. This guy GAIJINGUY, older gentleman that is only started a couple months ago, about 7 months ago, was it? Yeah, just 7 months ago, like, you know, and putting out some fairly long videos and interesting, very flashy information all over the cover and over the thumbnail and things like that. But this one is really interesting if you're a fan of Shonen Jump, because he literally goes through the whole first issue of the magazine, which I've never seen. I've only ever seen the cover, right? And he doesn't just flip through the pages without any like dialogue or anything. He's commenting on them. He's reading out some of the words. He takes like 5 or 10 minutes on just the cover and reading every single little detail. And there was an interesting detail he picked up from the cover about like how Jump they were kind of going on this adventure, and they were going to plunder the wonders of like pirates or something. And like there's a pirate sort of thing going on. And I'm like, oh my god, like that, maybe that's why. I know it's kind of a loose like kind of loose connection, but like the fact that, and also he starts the video with like, here I am with Monkey D. Rufy with the he's at like the bronze statue of Luffy, and he's like, here's a Monkey D. Rufy, and then, you know, he shows himself on screen, but then the most of the video is him video camera down, and he's going page by page, even describing some of the stuff that happens in some of these stories, and giving you every single one, like talking about the ads. He does a lot of some of the controversial stuff. Like there's this thing of like kind of like dressing up like Nazis or Nazi memorabilia, like an ad for one of those in the magazine. And so he's kind of talking about that, and he's like, you know, I don't want to like just completely ignore this stuff when it's problematic. I think it's important to talk about, but also give the good context. And he seems like very neutral, but not afraid to talk about that sort of stuff, which is great. I really liked the talk about the like Goguna Guy's Gakuen, Hakure Gakuen, I think, and the reaction that manga ended up getting. And here's like the first chapter of it, or like the a chapter of it, perhaps. I just thought it was really interesting. There was just so much interesting stuff about it, and like visuals that you would probably not really find so much online unless you really dug or something. I just thought it was so valuable and interesting. You know, the stuff that like I probably should put this in best more so, but the reason I had it in decent morely is that like it's really long. You know, it's not like super polished or anything. It's almost like a live stream pretty much, and I think it would work great as a live stream. Honestly, if he had more issues like this and he made a live stream out of it, and the chat's interacting with him as he's going through the whole thing, I think that would be a really great series, and he could do that for like 2 hours and going through this whole magazine or something, or 1 hour, however long this video was. There's a couple cuts, so you can tell it is edited, but there is a good chunk of like 2 minutes where clearly there was supposed to be a cut and there wasn't one, which was awkward, and that doesn't say anything, and is like, you know, it's too bad, but mistakes happen. You know, things like that get slipped under the radar. It happens. But I really suggest watching this video. This is really interesting, and definitely check his stuff out. I also just like that it's an older guy talking about this stuff. His perspective is really unique. Oh my god, there's a section of the first issue of Shonen Jump where it just has Flash Gordon comics in it. It just has like Japanese, like literally it's just Flash Gordon, but it's Japanese, but it's in like it's translated into Japanese. I'm like, that's crazy. Like that's so interesting. It's stuff you would never expect, and something really informative about the magazine's history and stuff. It's just something that that's awesome. I love this stuff. I think like iPatch Wolf had a similar kind of video long ago about like an issue of Jump that had Gingen Agare Boshigin and some other stuff and whatever. But I actually really liked having it go through page by page and even talking about some of the ads and stuff like that. I just thought it was really interesting. Great channel. I'm really interested in seeing what else he has. And his sharing his perspective. I definitely recommend, if he ever sees this, I don't know, but like if he looks into doing some live streams, maybe. I don't know if the technology it's like a lot. But I was saying earlier was like the fact that he's like an older guy. I think it's just a really needed, mature, and but still passionate and like knowledgeable perspective in this sort of industry and stuff, and also can read, like, I think he seems to live in Japan because of that first shot with him with the bronze statues. I think he's living in Japan right now, which is always a really helpful, useful perspective and stuff. And yeah, I just think it's really interesting, and I was just really happy to see this video. I think I liked it a lot more than to give it a decent. I'll probably put it in best, but yeah, sorry if that's a little like inside baseball. Sometimes I shift these videos around as I'm talking about them, but it's going to show up a little later. It was originally a decent, but I think I'm going to like it a lot more. I think it was excellent. A similar video to the GAIJINGUY is retrobits had this video of fan subbing with the Amiga, not for sale or rent. And I think I'm thinking I'm familiar with retrobits generally, because I think my boss this is one of the channels my boss watches. He watches very few YouTube channels, but he mostly does like the tech stuff because that's the thing he's into, which is fair. And it's, a lot of it was kind of went over my head of like the jargon and where, but it was cool that he actually showed every individual piece of equipment that's used to make these kind of fan subs in this era before AGSub existed, before it just made everything very accessible and easy. This was actually really demanding, both financially and the amount of time. He actually shows you how they're made in this, and it was just really interesting and harrowing. I'm just like, oh my god, I would never. I mean, I probably would have. I like if maybe I'm not like a big like tech person, like the way I was raised and with whatever. But like I imagine if I was back then, or it was in the right circumstances, the amount of passion that I have, it could have probably led to something like this. But just like the fact that there was so many people doing this too, and there was a whole ecosystem. I mean, he describes it in this too, and it was just really interesting. And he says that he's coming from someone who was there and did it back then. So this is from a position of pretty much authority, and he's saying like my experience. This is just my experience, and there's other people that had different experiences and things like that. But he does obviously clearly sound like he's talking from as an insider, and he's like, this is what we used to do. We would have to hit the space bar every time a line of dialogue happened for it to like go to the next one. And we had to time that, and we had to watch the whole thing in real time, like multiple times to get the timing right. And it's like, geez Louise, I can't imagine how inefficient that is. And he goes into some of the more efficient, like the ways it evolved and did a little bit, but he doesn't go into like the digi sub era so much, which is where like Live Evil and it kind of got a little more crazy. But like the kind of the old fashioned with the multiple monitors and kind of an onset like with like dragging a menu onto the thing, like seeing it in person was so interesting. And then seeing it being done, he even like films in the back and shows you where everything's plugged in. And there's a lot of jargon that I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. I'm like, oh, the TX blah 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 blah, and they're like, oh, okay, it's very outsidery. But yeah, and like really fascinating, and it's something you would never appreciate nowadays, and I just think it was really succinct and really interesting and informative and massively insightful. Really enjoyed it. Like really valuable video here. It's one of those kinds of videos where I'm like, no, like I wish I could even promote this a little even more than like more like kind of using this information as a resource to talk about it on my own channel or something like that. You know what I mean? Where it's like you really want to get the actual perspective of how difficult this was. You actually see it in real life. You're like, oh my god, I would never want to do that. It literally is sort of like the back in my day we used to walk to school in the snow uphill both ways, kind of thing. Except he's not really exaggerating. He's showing it to you, and I'm like, oh my god, I would never want to do that. You know what I mean? It's nuts. Anyway, fantastic video, really interesting and insightful, even-handed too, because not like trying to like bang the horn for fan subbing or anything. But he's like, yeah, this is what we did. This is the culture, and this it happened, and this was our perspective and things like that. Really great. Oh my god, amazing. And the last video I wanted to talk about is another upload from Toadette, except this is, I think it was even more impressive and just something really interesting. I'm also including a Twitter thread with this link underneath, like where the timestamp in the description, because that's supplementary information. I think it's part of what makes this really work and something that's really exciting. What makes this kind of the best for me is that it's kind of opening this idea of like, oh my god, this could be done a lot, provided like YouTube doesn't notice, So Toadette uploads an entire episode of New Moomin from 1972, which I'm pretty sure 1972. I'm pretty sure because it's supposed to be celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, and that's kind of the point. Yeah, 1972. And the thing is, right? It's not as like faithful or amazingly polished as the 90s one that I've talked about and other people are aware of. But this one actually has really standout animation, really impressive directing, and big names behind it. The chief director is Rintaro, of all people. and it has animation from Yoshikazu Yasuhiko and Yoshiaki Kawajiri, like really big names and stuff. But Toadette really there's a separate thread where they go over each. They kind of go over a bunch of different scenes and standouts with accompanying clips, but talking about the different animations and their perspective on this stuff is just really interesting and great, without having to make it a video. You know what I mean? I just love that like the video itself is watching the episode for yourself. You know, and it's sort of the thing where it's like, I wish, because obviously I can't do it with it reminded me like when I hosted a video where like I would have loved if it was a separate thing where I'm able to talk about all the stuff I want to and go in as much detail as I want about a particular episode, and then make a very easy link. You don't have to go find a torrent or find the middle of the episode or something like that. It's just taking an episode and focusing on it with very staff-centric in mind and crediting them accurately and everything. And going off all these different facets of it, the things you find interesting about it, but then letting the audience watch it for themselves. So like you're watching it, and it includes English subtitles that are like closed captioned in the video, which is always really nice, and I always like that about Toadette's content. And just like it's really interesting. But I just love what's really interesting is this hybrid of like a Twitter thread and then just the episode, and you're not even having any voiceover. It's not even like, you know, the video. It's not an edited video in the same way, but it's sort of like this best of both worlds type of thing. And I'm thinking about how like there's so many really awesome, insightful, interesting, thoughtful people. I don't know if I said thoughtful twice. Really great anime people that like I follow that are bloggers that could do something like this. Like if you had like AniTube's going through like Tokusatsu with a series or something, and there's an episode he wants to focus on, and he just uploads the episode. And like this is like old stuff. Like you wouldn't be able to do this for like Hostada or whatever, for like the like One Piece. You couldn't just upload an episode of One Piece. You'll definitely take it down or whatever. Or Ashino Naja, a bunch of Toei stuff, obviously. But like the fact that you could, like, a lot of this animation, like the new Moomin from 1972, that literally is just on VHS and is that's another thing that Toadette did, is that the existing rips are actually desynced. They have like pretty bad quality, video quality, and the audio is desynced and everything. So they actually uploaded they bought a VHS of Moomin and everything. And this is, of course, all to celebrate the 50th anniversary for it. So they're anticipating to be doing this for every single episode, ranking them, not uploading every episode, or like doing all this stuff, like even subbing it that much. There's a couple existing subs, but I don't think it's completely subbed. But like they say that they're going to be hopefully going throughout the whole series and giving credit to the like crediting, because they have pretty accurate credits, thankfully, in the ending credits. So they're like, here's who did the script, who did the direction, who did the animation and in-betweener and things like that, and give proper credit and stuff. In a way to celebrate the series and kind of like why they like it so much. And I just love that, man. That's such cool shit. That's so cool. I love that. If there was an old show that like I really latched onto in the same way and then did that with, that would be amazing. If you have those resources and things like that, man, I just love that. So I just wanted to gush out and talk about that and champion that as kind of the best thing I've seen personally. Even though the jump issue, going through all of that, is amazing, and the Fan Something with Amiga video is amazing, and the other things. This is great stuff this week. It was a wonderful week of Digest, and yeah, that'll be it. I'm happy to put on the good positive. That's why I do it, man. I just like the positive stuff personally, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. Thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.